$5. I guess over here it's 8, or we try to go for as low a door price as is possible, something that's reasonable. Part of that is because we think music should be affordable. There is such a thing as economic discrimination, I think. It's called high culture. And, I've seen other bands charging as much as $25 in America, $30, $50. It just seems kind of ludicrous. And then you go in, they charge $30 for t-shirts, which is just bullshit, It sort of takes away from the impact, for me, personally, of a band when because when I pay $25 to see a band, they better fucking entertain the shit out of me. It better be good. It's like when you go to a restaurant, if you should pay that much money for food, it better be fucking good. So in the same light, by charging a reasonable door price, we feel like we're allowed to suck. We don't have to be perfect, because we're not a perfect band. We're not like a phenomenally talented, greatest band on earth. We're just a band. And it's strange that so many people want to come see us, but doesn't mean that we're going to charge more for them to come see us. Yeah, we are in control of our organization, but that's part of our autonomy. We feel that we will take full responsibility for the band and its actions, but we also must have full control over that too. And we don't answer for things that other people have to say about us.
AJZ, but I guess it will do, huh?
Yeah, Discord, the word hardcore is a category that we're not comfortable with. So there's a lot of different, there's thousands of different definitions for that word. So I think that the word was really meaningless. You know, we're an independent label, an alternative label, and and we definitely start out as a punk label, like in those roots, or whatever. But as far as a hardcore label, I think that's a category that's rather confining, that I'm not interested in being categorized as. The label started in 1980, December 1980 was our first release. The idea was to document a certain community of musicians in Washington, D.C. And now as we come close to December 1990, Discord is still a label that is documenting a community of musicians in Washington, D.C. We pretty much have succeeded in what we set out to do, and we'll continue to do it as long as that community exists. When the community stops, so does the label. We are a well-known label, which is interesting, but we're not particularly ambitious, and we don't want to be a major label or anything like that. We want to do what we set out to do, and like I said, we'll do that until we're done. I don't know what you mean by logo, but I'll take your, I don't know. You mean, yeah.
I mean more of the design, you know, the design as a recognizable feature, which you immediately see as Discord.
The little, yeah, just a little something we drew.
What's saying is Discord is really an artistic project exclusively for Washington bands.
Yeah, always has been. Yeah, I mean, it was formed purely to document the music that was important to us. And part of the hope in that was that other people in other areas would also document the music that was important to them. Punk rock started out in America as a very regional thing. And there was different cities and different styles of music and different sorts of dancing and so forth. So we just felt like we should document Washington, D.C., which we thought was rather important, because that's where we lived. And there's a lot of reasons for doing this. One of the main ones is that we deal only with our friends. We don't have to rely on business contracts or anything like that. We don't use contracts. We don't like, just make them sign anything. We don't take away the rights to their songs. Nothing, We just work with our friends, and it just works out to be a better situation for us, because I have a lot of contempt for the record industry, and I don't particularly want to be a part of it any more than I have to. The fact that we started our own label is proof of that. When you don't want to be a part of something, you do it yourself. So we did.
They put your label in that category: hardcore, Discord, punk bands.
I don't really care what people think about the label or about the bands, or whatever. I'm not going to be a part of. I'm not going to play a part of that and say, yes, we are this. We're not. We're a label, and I think that it's, having played music for 10 years and been involved with hundreds of bands. When you have bands, Shudder to Think, Fidelity Jones, Soulside, Holy Rollers, or Fugazi, I think there's enough of a variance there that, in my opinion, and it's convenient for people, particularly the media or the journalists, fanzine people, whatever. It's convenient for them to have those sort of labels. It just, because it doesn't mean anything anymore. People are welcome to call it what they want. I'm just not going to agree with them. I'm just going to say, well, yeah, we're Fugazi. Yeah, the label is Discord, and we'll leave it at that. Like young people's vision of life, music, I think it's a good thing. And I think that even though we all are getting older, I think that kind of the decisions that we made as teenagers or as youths or whatever were really, really important to where we are now today. And I always will support the freedom of choice for kids, man. I think it's really important that kids have the alternatives and can know about it and go be a part of it if they want, to go to the underground. I think the underground has always been a breeding area for true creativity, where people can do what they want to do and not have to follow necessarily sets of rules. Although there are plenty of rules that can be sort of applied, such as category, but we'll ignore that now. underground offer like a potential, and I hope that I always will support the underground.
A specific question regarding disc records. Have you ever thought of using the label as a mouthpiece, for instance, for exposing political repression, as you oftentimes find on other underground product?
I would say that first off, that anything you do, particularly anything you do in part of the alternative community, is ipso facto a political statement and expression. That's not necessarily confused with politicians and necessarily political groups. It merely means that to exist independent of the mainstream is a political feat, in my opinion. If you're familiar with the label, you would know that we did release the State of the Union album, which definitely was, I'd say, rather explicit. Had rather explicit expressions from people about the political situations in the world. We find that the creativity we leave to the bands. If the bands say something, then we will support them in what they have to say. The label itself, again, is only a vehicle for this stuff to be released. It's left to the bands to decide what they want to do, like politically. Fugazi, for instance, plays many benefits. Like in Washington, we haven't played a paying gig for over a year. This is partly to raise consciousness, which is very important. More importantly, it's to raise cash for groups that we think are important. And if you want an example of those groups, I can tell you homelessness groups in Washington, which was a very big problem in America, people who have nowhere to live, shelters, women's shelters, children's shelters, soup kitchens, free clinics, AIDS activism, gay rights groups, environmental groups, women's rights groups, prison rights groups, prison reform groups. These are things that we feel personally as individuals, as human beings, we think are very important. And being a member of a band gives us an opportunity to gather people, and because of that, gather money. And with that money, we can put it towards people who are on the front lines of those causes, which we feel are important. I think a lot of times, the way we look at it, that expressions about certain political things, it dates your music, whatever, and it dates your expression. And I think that rebellion, I think the power and the right to speak out is timeless and should not be dated. I don't want 1990 written on the words that I sing, because that right to express myself is timeless.
Everybody talk about pop music.
You're from Washington, and I understand that Washington has a lot of social problems at the moment with drugs and racial problems too. Does it have any effect on you?
Yeah, of course. And we've all lived in Washington our whole lives, and I mean, what happens? I mean, in Washington, but also all across America or the world, for that, I think has an effect on us. In Washington, particularly right now, there is a very serious problem with kids shooting each other. Basically over money, but they sell drugs, and there's a turf sort of skirmishes going on, and they've already, I think there's
between 380 and 400 people shot
in Washington this year.
Already this year?
Yeah, it's the most ever. It's the biggest homicide rate per capita in the nation, in the entire U.S., I think.
That's, I mean, it's only a 10-mile square city. I mean, it's
Tiny
just
city,
unbelievable.
so it's kind of
But I mean, generally these are kids who are poor. They're black kids, and we happen to live like in parts of Washington that are not like. I mean, these guys actually live in a fairly bad neighborhood, but I mean, generally we're like white Washingtonians, so directly we're not directly affected in the sense that, you know, we're not getting shot or shooting at people. However, just by living there and the fact that you start feeling desensitized to that kind of slaughter, of course we're affected, you know. Of course it's something that we care about, you know. In Washington, almost all the shows we play are benefits.
Really?
Almost every show we play. I mean, for the Community for Creative Nonviolence, which is an homeless activist group, for AIDS research, for Greenpeace, for our environmental issues, for pro-choice rallies, all sorts of things. When we get back, we're working on a benefit design, like to raise money for outreach programs for kids who are involved with the violence in the street right now. But we're musicians, and what we can do is we can play and we can raise money for other groups who are more directly involved with these things, and that's what we do.